This conference will now be recorded.
Great. Quick introduction about me. This is Satish from Isha Training Solutions. I'll be the trainer for this application security testing for the next uh, 10, 12 days. Okay. What we'll do today is, today being a day one, uh, the plan is just to quickly go over, most of you might have already seen this course content. I'll just go over the course content, and I'll also go over the applications and the Google Drive, what it is there in the Google Drive and what you'll be needed to install it in on your machine. I'll go over that in a very high level, and then we'll get started with the concepts. Okay, the security testing concepts will get started. Okay, um, yeah. So the plan for the next 2.5 weeks is to get started with the security testing concepts like your HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, UDP protocols, SSL, HTTP methods, status codes, cryptography, hashing, salting. All these are all very important, basic when it comes to your security testing. It not only security testing, it's in fact very basic concepts from a internet itself, right? But when it comes to security, those are very much related. So we'll get started with these concepts, right? Probably today and some part of tomorrow. Okay. And then we'll get started with the verb suit tool configuration, and we'll go over how to use verb suit, what are the various components in verb suit, like your intruder, repeater, collaborator, right? All these components, we'll go and look into it practically with an hands-on for each of these components. Right? How to configure your proxy, all these things we will be looking into it using the verb suit community edition. Okay. So once we have a tool installed, once we know about the tool components, then we will go into the OAPS top 10, OAPS top 10 vulnerabilities for web. OAPS as an organization, they have defined what are the frequently occurring vulnerability throughout the globe, right? So every 3 years, 4 years, they will look into the vulnerabilities, and then they will advise your application team to make sure that these vulnerabilities are being tested and addressed. Okay, and from there we'll go into the some of these very important vulnerability among this top 10. The first being the SQL injection. We'll go over what is SQL injection, what are the techniques to detect the vulnerability, various payloads to test the SQL injection, and then we'll also go and do some practically execute few of these application level transactions, and then we'll try to inject the SQL payloads, and then see how the actually SQL injection works, and how a hacker can actually make use of these vulnerability to hack into your system. We will try to learn from a testing perspective how do we go and test it. Okay, so first vulnerability is SQL injection, and then we will move on to the your JavaScript injection, your broken access control, your client-side request forgery, server-side request forgery, information disclosure, file upload vulnerabilities. So as a security tester, when you do this dynamic application security testing using Burp Suite or any tool, right, irrespective of tools, it can be Burp Suite, it could be Zap, it can be Fortify, it can be IBM AppScan. But from a concept perspective, all these things are all going to be pretty much same. Only the tool is going to be different, but what you do in the tool is pretty much going to be same, right? So all these different vulnerabilities is a one which you will be testing it in your application. Okay, and there's something called vectors and surface. um, as a tester, when you look into the application, you have to look into what are all ways I can enter into your system. It can be an URL, it can be an user input fields, it can be a search fields. All the entry points in your application is called vector. So we'll go and understand what is this attack vectors and what is attack surface. Okay, and then we'll also go and look into both passive and active scans. right? Using developer tool, looking into the network tab, you can find out a lot of configuration related security issues. That's what we call it as a passive scan. Okay, so we'll go and understand what is passive scan and how to identify vulnerabilities via passive scan. Okay, and then we'll also go and look into a utility called nmap. uh, it's specifically it is used for um, understanding what ports are opened in the target system, what services are running in your target system. It's a small utility for port scanning and the service level scanning. Okay, and at the last we'll also look into the zap. I haven't included in the content, but since it's an open source, we'll also look into the z attack proxy. There's another tool called zap. Okay, z attack proxy. It's similar to burpsuit, but the only thing is it's an open source. So we'll also go and look into zap in terms of how you can capture the traffic through proxy, and then how to modify it. So we'll just look into it at a very high level, the zap as well. Okay, this is the plan for the next 2.5 weeks to go over and then learn all these one by one. Okay, so what I will do is I'll be using a couple of online applications. uh, we cannot go and use any other application for doing the security testing or learning the security testing. Okay, we should use it only with the certain URLs that are available in the internet, especially for learning security testing. Okay, one is your demo testfire.net, and then you have something called gin and juice. I'll give you the couple of URLs which you can use it for your hands-on. Okay, I'll be using couple of more as well for us to, like, I have my local library application which I will give it to you as well, which you can use it for testing out the SQL injection kind of an attacks. Okay, all these things, the software like burpsuit, zap, wireshark, nmap, and other few artifacts as well will be available in this drive. Okay, so all the required softwares you can download it from the internet as well. Of course, burpsuit you can download from the internet. nmap you can download. You can download the zap as well, right? And the e-library application which I will be using it for certain activities, that is also going to be available here. When we go there, I'll tell you how to install it. I also added a video on how to install or set up this e-library application as well in this video. Okay, but as we go on to that section, I'll also explain how to do it, what to do it. But whatever artifacts you wanted to have it in your system, it will be available here as well, right? Everything what I do, you would be able to practice on your site, most of the things, except for burpsuit professional edition, right? We might need professional edition to do certain things, very small certain things. That alone you may not be able to install it because it's a licensed version, but otherwise everything else you would be able to do it on your system on your own. Okay, I have given access to everyone who have already registered, who have shared your email ID. I have given access to this. Okay, yeah, I'll ping you the drive link, probably. Just give me a few seconds, I'll go and ping this, so that you, whoever registered and made payment, you would have got the access from the institute already. Okay, so you can check this out. Okay, yeah. If you don't have access, just ping me after the call. I'll try to give the access to you. Okay, fine. So, yeah, what you can do is maybe today or tomorrow, you try to at least have the burpsuit community edition installed. It's very simple installation. It won't take much time. Download the exe and then you click. Maybe within a minute or two, it should get installed. That's one thing. Apart from that, um, you don't need to install anything else. Maybe as we go along, I'll tell about this e-library application later. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. We can probably spend last 5 minutes, 10 minutes on the questions, or tomorrow when we at the beginning, first 5-10 minutes, we can go over the question as well. Okay, you can go and look into the videos. The videos will be available. The recorded video will be available tomorrow morning IST, right? 12 hours from now. Probably morning around 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. IST, you'll be getting the recording, right? If you're in Europe, if you're in UK, you will be getting it mostly by your morning. You should be able to get the recorded video. Okay. Um, yeah. But feel free to put a question in the chat if you have anything, or you can raise a question at the end as well. I could see some voice getting echoed. I'll go and mute. There are a couple of people who are not muted. I'll go and mute them. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Okay. So from a concept perspective, we will go over a couple of important aspect of the internet, or the way your browser and server communicates, right? The entire application security testing. See, there are two things on the security application security testing, right? One is the SAST, another is a DAST. SAST is completely, it's at the code level, right? It's a code level scanning or identifying vulnerabilities at the code level, which is mostly developer centric testing. So you developer commits the code in Git or Bitbucket. The tool like checkmarks is going to scan through the code and it's going to find out some vulnerability which developer will fix it. So mostly this will be handled by the developer and the automated scan tool, right? And second aspect is your DAST, dynamic application security testing. So it is testing it from the end user perspective, right? For an end user, for a regular user like you and me, or for an hacker, what he will get is the URL, right? Amazon.com or Flipkart.com, and it will have various links, various pages. You will have registrations, you will have login. So as an end user, we will go and test it. Is the dynamic application security testing. Okay, we are going to access the application from the end user URL and then test it out. Okay, so which means the entire DAST will revolve around, you have a browser and you have a you launch your URL and you access the application, you navigate through pages, and the request will go to your server and the response will come back to the browser, right? So the entire testing will be around this area, the request getting sent from browser and it goes all the way to the server and then it comes back to your browser, right? So in that perspective, all these concepts are going to be more relevant at the DAST perspective. Okay, again, DAST is dynamic application security testing. Okay. uh, Few of you might be already aware of this, a few of you might not be aware of it. The HTTP and HTTPS, right? There are two ways of communicating from browser to your server, right? One is your HTTP, and then another one is going to be HTTPS. Um, the key difference between HTTP and HTTPS is, again, one more thing I want to say is the objective of security testing is to protect your data, right? Customers' data. Data will be at two level: data at rest, data at transit, right? When I say data as transit, your data is to, when I say data, it could be your user ID password, it could be your account number, it could be your credit card, whatever you enter, your address, your profile data, whatever you type in the web, your web application, and it will be sent over the network, right? So the data over the transit has to be protected, right? From when the data goes from your browser to server or from server to browser, it has to be protected. Nobody should be able to steal your data. Same way, data at rest. The data is going to be stored in your database, right? All these be it is a credentials or all these sensitive information, it's going to get stored in the database. So the database also should be secured and properly stored. So when it comes to data transit is where this HTTP and HTTPS plays a major role, right? I'll explain you with an example. Okay. Um, what I'll do is I'll open the Wireshark. Wireshark is one of the very popular network tool. So you can also, if you want to try out few things to understand the traffic and all, you can install Wireshark. It's an open source. Okay, you'll be able to capture and visualize the traffic that is going over the network. Okay, so I'll open this. Okay, I'm going to use two applications. Okay, for our example, I'm going to use this demo testfy.net. Okay, this demo testfy.net, which is HTTPS, which is over the HTTP. If you see the URL, it is HTTPS. Okay, and then I'm going to use another application, Isha Training Solutions.com. Okay, which is over HTTP. Okay, and we'll first look into this Isha Training Solution.com. Okay, and let me go to this here, and then let me open a developer tool. Okay, again, developer tool is something you should start using it if you haven't, if you're not using it already. It's very good tool for your functional testing, your performance testing, your security. For everything, you will have a lot of information available in this developer tool, right? um, go to your network tab. I'll clear it. Okay, and then I'll try to do a login. Okay, there is a I'll just minimize this. Okay, so there is a user ID as Isha Trading Solution, and there is a password. Okay, and then I'll do a sign in. Okay, and I don't worry about whether the user ID password is correct or not. Okay, if you see here, there is a request to the backend, and it says ishatrainingsolution.com OAuth token, and then it says username and password. Right, username is Isha Training Solution, and password is Isha Training Solution. Okay, so from the browser, the request goes like OAuth/token with username and password. Okay, now what I will do is I will try to capture the traffic through a tool like your Wireshark. Okay, see, the reason I'm going to do is, if you see here, you might have heard about the word man in the middle attack. Okay, so man in the middle attack is, you have your browser, you have your server, right? You have a user accessing your application through your browser, and you have an application server, and the communication happens between the browser and server, right? But somebody in the middle, a hacker, will be sitting in between your system, your browser, and then the application, and you will try to see whether he can able to capture the traffic and steal the data. So man in the middle is middle of your application server and your browser. Okay, so when man in the middle will try to intercept the traffic. Okay, for example, say you might be in a common Wi-Fi in an airport or in any public places where you have a common Wi-Fi, right? There is a real potential threat of all these security vulnerabilities or security hacking can happen because you are in a public network, right? You might be using a Wi-Fi network that is available in airport, which is shared among multiple people, right? So when a man in the middle will try to intercept the traffic, what happens? Okay, how HTTP and HTTPS going to behave when a person is going to um, intercept your traffic. Okay, so for that, your burp suit or your Wireshark, all these things going to be kind of a uh, burp suit is, or your WAPs, Zap, or 45 AppScan. All these are going to be a proxy tool, or a it is going to mimic a man in the middle. Okay, um, we'll be allowing the traffic to flow through burp suit, capture the traffic, and then do some manipulation, do some intrusion, change the payload, and then we'll send it to the web application. Typically, an hacker will do it, right? That's what we are going to test it using the burp suit. But coming back to our HTTP and HTTPS analysis, I'll try to capture the traffic through Wireshark initially for now, right? And then see how it behaves, how Isha Training Solution is going to behave, how this demo test file is going to behave. Okay, I'll take this and then try to find out the IP address of the Isha Training Solution. Okay, I'll take this and then go to the here. I'll just apply this filter here. I will say filter, it will capture all the traffic that is going in my system, right? I might be open a lot of websites, so it will capture all the traffic. I'll go and filter this. To filter out this, ip.destination is equal to I'm going to capture only the traffic that is going into the ishatrainingsolution.com. Okay, now I'll go and probably refresh this. Okay, so you will see all this traffic that are going into the your that particular domain, that particular site. Now what I will do is I'll go and do a login. Okay, you see here this HTTP post OAuth token, that's a request. We saw it in the developer tool also, right? Post/OAuth token grant type is equal to password, username is equal to Isha Training Solution, password is Isha Training Solution. If you see here, as a from an external tool, I could able to capture the username and the password as a plain text. Okay, so which means if a hacker could able to get into your network somehow, same network, then he would be able to, if he is able to listen to the conversation, he can easily go and get this user ID and password through any of these proxy tools, because Isha Training Solution is over HTTP. It's not secure, right? Now let me go and do it for the demo testfire.net. Okay, the demo testfire.net, if I can go to the network, right, and then I do a sign in, right? If you see here, if you go to do login, you will have the payload as admin and admin, right? The password is admin, user is also admin. Now let me go and find this in the Wireshark. Let me ping this, and then I'll go and change this. Now let me do one more time. Sign off, sign in, admin, admin. Okay, now if you see, you could able to see a lot of requests for this destination, right? From the beginning, if you see, there are a lot of calls. Okay, now if you come down at the end, you see something called application data and application data, right? So normally these kind of a post request where you submit something, all will be called as application data. There will be a lot of activity in terms of connection. You will see something called acknowledgement, something called ACK, and then you will see a lot of packets. Okay, you will see a lot of traffic captured in this Wireshark. And when you look into the application data, which means that is the actual application data sent to your server. Okay, if you look into this application data, and if you expand this, okay, and if you see this encrypted application data, you will not be able to understand anything at all. Okay, this or this, you will not even know what is a request. Is it a login? Is it user ID password? You will not be able to understand anything. Okay, everything is encrypted, right? Because it is HTTPS. If you see here, TLS v1.2. Okay, so since it is secured, the man in the middle will not be able to get, even though you can intercept, you won't be able to steal your data at all. That is the main difference between your HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, you can probably try it out with some different applications. You can go and try it with using your Wireshark just for your hands-on, so that you will not forget this concept, right? You can just try it out. If you already know about this, yeah, well and good. Okay. This you might have heard about SSL. That's a very common name, right? Your secure socket layer, SSL. When we say that your website is over HTTPS, which means it is secured with a proper SSL certificate, right? Your server admins, your infrastructure team will purchase a proper certificate, SSL certificate, and then they will deploy it at your server. Right? Earlier, it is called as SSL certificate, SSL 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Okay, the upgraded version is TLS 1.2. They were renamed SSL to TLS long back. But still, the terminology SSL is very popular. So that is why we call it as SSL certificate in a lot of the places. But it is actually TLS. Okay, TLS 1.2, 1.3 is the latest. In most of the application, you will see TLS 1.2. Okay, so the word SSL and TLS are used interchangeably. We no need to really worry about it. But TLS 1.2 and 1.3 is the latest one. If you go to any application, if you see here, if I go to this particular demo test fire and go to the security, you will see that somewhere it is using TLS 1.2. Okay, under the connection, you will see TLS 1.2. Same way, if we go to say Flipkart, okay, and then go to the security, developer tool and security. Okay, you'll find that TLS 1.2 under the connection, right? So yeah, most of the application you will see it is going to be either TLS 1.2 or 1.3. In any of the occasion in your projects, in your application, if it might be little old and it is not updated, and if you find that it is 1.1 or 1.0, right, then it is not a secured, though it is going to encrypt, but those are having lot of loopholes. Okay, they're not very secured. Still, the hacker will be able to exploit it. If an hacker sees that there is application with TLS 1.1 or 1.2, the hacker would be able to exploit it. Okay, in case if you see that kind of a configuration at your application in your wherever you're working, then you need to bring that to the notice and then ask them to upgrade it to 1.2 or 1.3. Okay, yeah, you can find out the TLS by going to that security option. Okay. Very brief note on this TCP and UDP. If you see in the Wireshark, right, you will see lot of in the protocol. You will see TCP and TLS. Okay, TLS is a, as I said, it's a HTTPS protocol, right? TLS protocol. But for any communication, when you type in, when you send a from your browser, when you enter flipkart.com, okay, there are 4 levels of transportation will happen. Okay, um, at the application layer, we call it as it is a HTTP or HTTPS or TLS, right? At the application level, it can be HTTP or HTTPS or FTP. So that's where your actual request originates, right? But it won't go to the server directly. Okay, it is going to use the lower level communications uh, in your Windows or in your Linux or whatever machines you are going to use it. It is going to go over multiple layers before it goes out of your network. Okay, from browser, it is going to convert your request into multiple packets, right? So that's a transport protocol called TCP or UDP. Okay, if you see here, there will be a lot of TCP connections. Okay, see again, you don't need to technically know a lot about this from a network perspective. Just for your basic understanding, you can just assume that your request that you fire it from your browser, it will go through couple of steps. It will get converted into multiple packets, and it will be transmitted through a system level, low level protocol called TCP. Okay, where your TCP protocol in your machine, in your laptop, will send acknowledgements. Okay, if you see here, there will be an ACK. It is kind of an handshake. Browser will say, see, I'm trying to establish a connection with you. Request will be sample communication will be sent to your server. Server will say that, okay, I acknowledge you, I trust you. It will send an acknowledgement. Again, from browser, it will say that I have received your acknowledgement. I'm starting to send you the actual request. So it's going to be to and fro request, to and fro handshake between browser to server will happen through this kind of a TCP protocol. Okay, that will happen for every application from your browser to server, server to browser, browser to server. There's going to be a couple of handshakes. Okay, so your entire request is going to get chunked into smaller packets. Acknowledgements are going to be sent, handshakes are going to be sent through TCP protocol, and then it will go through your internet. It could be your Geo, it could be your Airtel, Vodafone, whatever it is, right? It is going to go and connect through your internet protocol or internet layer in your machine, and then over the network card, it will go out of your system or go out of your laptop into your application server. Similarly, it will, when it goes to a server, it's again the same thing. It has to reach your network's access layer of your application server. It will go over the internet layer. It will go through the TCP, and then it will go into the actual your Tomcat or a JBoss server, right? That's how this, we call it as a TCP IP model. Okay, when you send a request from browser, all we know is it is going to go and hit the server and come back, right? Internally, these things will happen through the TCP IP model. That level, you will understand that's more than enough. We are not going to be a network engineers, right, to know a lot about these things. From a concept perspective, that's how a communication happens between your browser to your server. Okay, so we have seen what is HTTP, what is HTTPS, and what is going to protect your data, how the HTTPS is going to encrypt the data, right? And yeah, a few more concepts before we go further, right? When you look into the your again developer tool, and when you look into the network tab, you will see something called method, something called status. right? A page will constitute multiple requests, right? It will have JavaScripts, it will have style sheets, it will have images, it will have API calls. A lot of requests are going to be there for a page to get completely rendered. And for every request will have a method, will have a status, correct? A method is going to be your get, put, post, patch, delete, right? It is kind of what exactly you are asking the server to do, to get something or to post something or to delete something. That's a method, very simple to put. To put simple, when you do a sign in, when you do a registration, when you do a search, you're asking to get something from server or update something on the server, right? So that's called method. Status is, you have sent a request and you get a response. A successful response, you'll get a 200 as a response code, right? If it is not successful, you might get 401, you might get 404, you might get 500. So there are different HTTP methods. From a security testing perspective, these two are important in certain way. Okay, see, normally for a functionality itself, status is important. From performance also, the status code is important. From a security testing, we'll try to understand how these methods and codes are going to be key, right? Um, so, as I said, there are multiple methods, right? You have get, you have hit, you have put, post, patch. All these things are there. Normally, every website will have these things. Okay, but when you see something called options, when you see something called trace, you have to be little careful, or rather, you as a security tester have to be um, highlighting this to your development team, saying that why are they having these options and trace. I'll tell what is it. Okay, options is nothing but um, it is going to, when you send a request to say amazon.com with method as option, it will respond back saying that amazon.com, I will accept get method, I will accept post method, I will accept put method, I will accept trace. So it is going to say what is my capability as an amazon.com, what is my capability. Okay, this is not required for a browser to know, ideally most of the cases. Okay, because you are giving an additional information to the hacker, saying that you can try me with post, you can try me with the put, you can try me with the trace also. Trace is again a very much not a mandatory method for a production site. Trace is for debugging. Okay, normally in QA environment, right, you can have these traces for some debugging purpose. In production, you should not see a trace at all. Let me show you an example. Okay, let me go to this again in the flipkart.com. Let me see if there is any method for options. Okay, I'll go and sort this method here and then see if there's anything called options. You have get, lot of get, and you have some post. I don't see any options. uh, Let me go to this website. It's a local site in India. Okay, a jewelry shop. Okay, and then I'll go to this method, let it load completely. It's still loading. Yeah, there are post, there are get. I don't know why it is little slow. Yeah, I could see an options came somewhere. I'll stop this. Now if we go here, yeah, if you see here, there is an options. Okay, if we open this request, double click and open the request. If we go to the headers, okay, the headers, the method is options. So to this domain, https ujm.ansel.io, I'm sending a request to this domain and I'm requesting options. And the response, if you see, it will respond, the response header, you will see that all these methods are allowed. Options, get, put, post, delete, add, all are allowed. It says that all these methods are allowed for you to access. Okay, this kind of an information is not required. Okay, um, so when you going to be part of your security testing in your project, the safe methods are going to be your get, add, put, post, patch, all these things. But options and trace, if you find it, you should highlight it to your developer. Okay, so though the methods, when you look into the method, all this get, post, put, post and all, it's a normal thing. But when you are going to be a security tester, you should have an additional eye on the options and trace. Option should not even be there. Okay, even if it is there, it should not respond. These are my allowed methods. So this is something, not a safe way of handling your request. And you should also not see any of the trace related method also. I don't know whether the trace method is here, but yeah, trace also should not be there in the method. If it is there, you need to highlight it to your developer. Similarly, when you look into this status code, right? Normally, what we think as a functional tester, we see that, okay, you get 401 authentication failure. You give a wrong password, you might give a 401. Or if you incorrectly send some data in the user ID or password, or in some of the forms, right, it might give 404. Or sometimes the server is busy, it will throw 500, right? Um, but these status codes are also related to possible hacking that might happen in the production. Okay, one of the OAP's top 10, right, is insufficient logging and monitoring. What it says is, all these response code, right, for be it is a 400, 401 or 403 or 500, all these things you have to log it properly in your monitoring tool or in the logs, with the proper timestamp, with proper information from where this request is coming from, which IP is coming from. All this data has to be logged properly, because it might indicate a potential security threat or potential attack. They call it as denial of service, DOS. Okay, denial of service. If there's a pattern, uh, um, a tool can actually, with a lot of tools like Dynatrace and Datadog, they have a very intelligent tools which can actually detect these kind of a security attacks as well. If a request is keep on coming from a particular IP segment, and if it is keep on getting 401 or 400, right, then which means it is a alert. So what WAP's top 10 says is, you should have a proper logging and monitoring. Because of insufficient logging and monitoring, there are a lot of threats happening in the world. That's why this is there in the top 10. Insufficient logging and monitoring is appearing in the top 10 because in a lot of the systems, logging and monitoring is not properly. Because of that, there are threats happening in the world. Okay, so as a security tester, uh, you should understand what is 400, what is 500, what is 200, right? So 200s are good, always 200, 201, 202, or which are which means server could able to respond back properly. When it comes to 400, 401 is unauthorized. Somebody is trying to guess your password. and keeps on trying different user ID and password, you get 401, right? From a security perspective, when somebody is trying to send a incorrect payload, okay, so using burp suit or using any of the proxy tool, or the hacker will have the other way of manipulating the data, right? You will capture the traffic, will try to modify it. So when he tries to do a modification, the server will not recognize it, and it will say as 400 or it will say 404, right? So 400, 404, if it is happening frequently from a particular IP in production, it means somebody is again trying to manipulate something, right? So we are not going to monitor the logs. You as a security tester, you will not be monitoring the logs, right? But you should know the importance of 400, 404s or 401 from a security perspective. And when you're going to be part of the security testing team, or as part of your security um, SME in the future, right? You should also be part of these discussion to validate what kind of logging happening in the production, in the server, whether they are logging all these error codes with proper timestamps and proper IP address, whether there's a proper alerting system in place which can actually create alerts based on these information. That you have to validate, discuss with the infra team, discuss with the architects, ensure that proper logging and monitoring is happening. And if you remember, in the beginning I told, don't do any of these burp suit attacks with to Amazon.com or Flipkart.com or any sites, because through burp suit we will be trying to send many payloads. We'll try to modify a lot of things randomly. So if you're going to try it again, Amazon.com or Flipkart.com, those are very popular sites. They will have a proper logging and monitoring. They will see that an attack is coming from your IP, and then they will block you. You will won't be able to access the Amazon.com from your IP address from then, at least for next couple of days. And they can also log a complaint. Okay, so don't ever try to do any attacks through burp suit or through any proxy tool on your commercial websites. Okay, only certain websites are available for your hands-on, which I will be telling you. That alone you can use it. Okay, so yeah, in that, with this perspective, you just understand the status codes and methods, though they are simple, which you might be seeing day in day out in your developer tool. But from a context of security testing, it is important for you to understand how important these status codes are and how important the methods are, right? And also this 500, right? What will happen is, uh, again, the hackers or some of your competitors can try to bring down your system, right? So they will keep on hitting your system, because of which the load on the system will increase, and then it will try to bring down your server, right? In that uh, time, you might get all these 500s, 502, 503, all these kind of service unavailability, internal server error will come into picture. Again, your monitoring and logging should be strong enough to sense that somebody is trying to attack. There are frequent requests coming in. It might not be 401, it might not be 404, right? It might be a legitimate request. It might be just hitting your URL, all the pages. So from specific address, it might be keep on blasting, right? Which will increase your load, which will try to bring down your system. Okay? There are lot of this can unethically, some of your competitor might be doing it during your festive seasons, right? There are a lot of bot that can be ran to hit your application with the high load. So because of which all these 500 response code can come into the come from the server. Okay, yeah, fine. Now again from HTTPS, right? Just to give some more information about the HTTPS, there's something called cryptography. You might will come across this word quite often in your security domain, right? Um, there are two things. One is your encryption. Second is your hashing. Both are cryptography. Okay, cryptography is more about securing your data in transit, again data at rest. Both are important again, right? Every time when I say about data, it is data transit, data at rest. So this SSL or TLS is going to take care of your data at transmission or data at transit, right? So the your TLS actually what it does is it will convert your plain text, your user ID or password, or all your credentials, all your sensitive information like credit cards, all the post data. It is going to encrypt, right? When it is encrypt, it's going to convert this into a like the cipher text. Somebody is on unmuted. Uh, what's that?
They
Let me go
পচের
and
আন্টিং পচের কোন তাতে
I'll
কন্টাক্ট
go and mute him. Yeah, sorry, somebody is unmuted. Okay, so it's going to convert into a cipher text, and this ciphertext is going to get transferred over the network, right? That's what we saw it in the Wireshark as well. We couldn't able to understand what is that. And again, when it reaches server will again decrypt the key, decrypt your ciphertext to a plain text. Okay, so using encryption and decryption, your browser will encrypt it, your server will decrypt it. Similarly, when server is going to send the response back, it will encrypt. Again, the sender will your browser will decrypt it. That's how it is going to secure your data. Okay, so encryption and hashing. Encryption will be done by uh, uh, your TLS. Okay, when you implement your SSL or TLS, this encryption will be taken care. So as a developer or as a security tester, we don't need to worry about the encryption as long as it is TLS 1.2 or 1.3. It is all good. Okay, we don't need to validate anything further. But there is something called hashing. Okay, hashing and salting is more about having the data at the rest secured. See, I don't know, you might not, I have been worried about in the past, right? I will be thinking that how is my user ID and password is going to get stored in the database, right? For Amazon.com, for my Gmail. I wonder how, if it is there in the database, the production support team or DBAs can easily go and get my password or user ID, right? I mean, if it is going to be stored as a plain text. See, encryption is going to be only during the transit. So, from a browser, user ID and password is going to go into the network. There, nobody will be able to read it. Then when it reaches the server, it will get converted again into a plain text, and then it will get stored in the database. So if a DBA or production support team can go and look into the database, they will be able to easily get all the sensitive information, right? To avoid that or to protect my data at rest, there is a concept called hashing and salting. Okay, so the hashing and salting is, let me take an example. Okay, when you type in your user ID when you do a registration, for example, right? I register to a Amazon.com. Okay, I give a user ID as some email ID, and I give a password as Apple. Okay, what will happen is salting is adding a salt. Okay, adding a salt in sense to a prefix or to a suffix, they will add a random character or random alphanumeric character. Here, if you see, they've added something called YRTZD. Some random salt will be added either the prefix or at the suffix. Okay, and then this will go into the hashing algorithm. Hashing algorithm is it will create a hash of this as your password plus salt. So it will give you this kind of alphanumeric digit. Okay, for it to be very, very unique for that combination. For every Apple or what password you set, the hashing is going to be pretty much unique for that password. Okay, and that hashed password will get stored in the database. Okay, so two things will get stored. It will store the salt, what salt is added, and it will also store your hashed password. So if somebody is going to look into the database, they will not get the password. They will only get this hashed one, and there is no algorithm available to dehash it, which means if I give this FAS or FSS, no software will give me the actual password as Apple. So at any point of time, nobody will be able to reverse hash. Okay, so next time when I do a login, okay, I enter my user ID and password, it comes into the system. So when it comes to the system, my login functionality in the server side, it will go and fetch the salt, and then it will add the salt into the password. Then that will go into the hashing algorithm. Then the hash password will it will get hashed. That will be compared whether the password is correct or not. It will compare the hash password that is available in your database versus whatever you have entered plus salt is added. That will go into the hashing algorithm. That will be compared. Okay, never ever the word called Apple will be there in the your database. Okay, so that is your hashing. Okay, so hashing and salting is to protect your data at rest. Encryption is for your data at transit. Okay, and there are multiple algorithm for hashing. What you have to do is, see, encryption you don't need to validate. If it is TLS 1.2, 1.3, we are good. But when it's come to hashing, you have to discuss with your architects, or if you go and look into the your report, SAST report, right? Check marks, kind of a static analysis code reviews, right? In that report, you will find out what kind of hashing algorithm they might have used. Okay, either you have to discuss with your developer, architects, understand what kind of hashing algorithm they are using it. If it is outdated, you can go and check in the internet. There are a lot of sites available to tell you what are good algorithms, what are outdated algorithms. Okay, SHA 256, SHA 3, bcrypt, all these are all various hashing algorithm. You have to find out with your architects what algorithms they are using it. If that algorithm is outdated, we have to ask them to update it or upgrade it. This also will be validated in your SAST tool as well, because SAST is going to run through your code. It will identify if a problem is there in any of the hashing algorithm. It will also highlight it. But as a security tester, you should have a practice of discussing with the architect to understand what kind of hashing is done for all your sensitive information like your credit cards, right? For your all these passwords and all, you should try to understand what is the um, hashing algorithm used. Okay? So all these things are all the very basic concepts as a security tester you should know from an interview perspective, and also to get your basics right before we jump onto the your testing itself. Okay, so that is the intention of having this concepts today. With this, we will stop it. Okay, we'll start from verb suit tomorrow. Um, yeah, I'll stop it here. If any of you have any questions, feel free to ask, or if you go over the video tomorrow, if you have any questions, we can also discuss the tomorrow's session at the beginning.
Quick question, Satish. When you mentioned about the request headers method that we are using options, so for the response headers, if we are using only post method, is it good, or if you're using only multiple is bad?
See, obviously there are methods available to do some functionalities, right? So get, post, put, patch, all are absolutely fine. Every page is going to have a combination of all these methods, right? Only thing is what we are advising is not to use options or the trace. Otherwise, it will have combination of multiple such method for every page.
Yeah, when we use options for the request header and for the response, we are accepting only one method. It can be put, it can be post, get. How we define this? Is this still a security threat?
See, using the option itself is not a good option, because you are exposing the information, right? Saying that as a domain, I am allowing you to access my get and then post or put. That information itself is not required. Okay, first of all, that's
Okay. Yeah.
that's a advisable one. In case okay, fine, the option is there, and then they are allowing only get or post or put. Yeah, which means it is good. In that perspective, it is good, but using option itself is not recommended, is what I would say. But if they're restricting the trace or delete, yeah, it is second level of I would say. So there are two ways of looking into it. What methods are getting exposed, right? In that, they can expose get, post, put, patch, all these things, right? But they don't need to reveal that information, right? That is why I'm saying option should not be there. That's one thing. But in other way around, yeah, they should not allow the trace or delete in most of the cases.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Thanks, Satish.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Uh, the pseudo random generator is kind of a again salting mechanism, where a random pseudo is going to get generated. So in the context of salting, it is an algorithm that is going to generate some sequence of number or a random number that can be appended as a salt. So it's one of the algorithm for your salt. Okay, fine guys. I'll stop the recording. We will continue tomorrow. And again, whoever has registered already and made payment, you please provide your email ID. I'll provide the access if it is not there. And if somebody is not registered, please reach out to Kumar sir, and then make payments, because we already started the day one today. So we'll continue with this from tomorrow with the burp suit and all. So yeah, please feel free to reach out to Kumar sir for any payments. Okay. Yeah, thank you guys. We'll meet tomorrow.